Well, good afternoon, everyone. We are just going to get one more second here. Let others who are trying to get in the room get in the room. Oh, my screen decided to. All right, I think we'll go get this party started. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tammy Bartlett. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs for Student Veterans America, and I am here with.
Okay.
Mike Coleman,
Yeah.
legal volunteer for SVA.
Anyway, real quick, Wade does not like the sponsor deck. He doesn't like.
If you all, yeah, thank you, Sarah. We really appreciate you taking time out of your Tuesday afternoon to be with us here for another Lunch and Learn as we get closer and closer to Washington Week, which we'll talk about later on the slide deck. So next slide, please. So we got a lot to cover today. A lot's been going on. Kind of missed you all last month just because NACON was around the corner and we just needed extra time to breathe before we prepared for all that going on. So our agenda today is we're going to do a NatCon recap. Faisal's going to do an update from the Hill, an elevator pitch. Then we have a guest speaker who is already in the room. And then we're going to talk about Washington Week, the Google Career Certs, certificates, if you haven't heard about that. And then we'll take some time at the end for some question and answer. So quick show of hands, how many of you were at NACON? Great. And I know for many of you here, it was not your first time. How many of you, it was your first time? Good. Well, for those that were able to join us and it was your first time or your 10th time, like my time, I hope you came and had a great time and was able to network with everyone and engage with everyone. As far as government affairs, our government affairs session was a success. We had Ken Smith, the Director for Education Services at VBA there with us, Dan Wheely, the National Commander of the American Legion, Dr. Linda Davis, who is the Chief Veteran Experience Officer at VA, the Post-National Commander-in-Chief for the VFW, Brian Duffy, and DOL Vets, Matthew Passmore. So really appreciated them coming and sharing their wisdom from the main stage. But also, we had our government affairs session of the Hill Town Hall. We would like to thank our Hill staffers that came all the way out to Colorado Springs and joined us there. Faisal held a very intriguing panel with them. They got to all share out what their committees are looking to push forward for this session. Policy think tank, again, for those that were involved in the policy think tank, thank you for coming and expressing some barriers and challenges, maybe some best practices that you're experiencing on your campus and your community. And then thank you again for our government friends who come either through VSO, MSO, or those Hill staffers that join us and are able to join us in that conversation. Meet Your VSO MSO panel was another success, Faisal. Those auctioneer paddles really worked well this year. And again, I think we owe Jennifer her swag bag since she was our winner for the session. And then I had done a Pathways to Advocacy session. Outside of what you had seen in our government affairs sessions and our government affairs track, the government affairs team for SVA was busy on the advisory track. I had the opportunity to hold a panel with NAVPA and ACE talking about compliance and policy when it comes to school certifying officials and that side of the whole education benefit with VA. And then Faisal and I were on a government affairs and research panel with our friends Dr. Kinch and Dr. Wooten from SVA, really talking about how advocacy is a team sport. And our research and our government affairs team very well in tandem to ensure that we get to advocate for things that are becoming issues and barriers, or best practices that needed to be drawn out on a national level. Some of our friends who attended NatCon, if you didn't get a chance, American Legion had a gaming booth. I know myself, I went over there a handful of times and did some Mario Kart just to alleviate some of the stress that's going on there at NatCon, because it can be quite a whirlwind. Our Hill Vets friends were there talking about their program in DC. Green and Gold were there also talking about their house openings on the house side. VA resources were there, from National Cemetery Affairs to Food and Housing Insecurity to other VBA and VHA enrollment benefits. And then again, we did have the VA claims clinic there. And lastly, the VFW SVA legislative fellows that joined us there. I'm really glad you all were there. And if you haven't already seen, and I should have announced it at the beginning of the slide, scan that QR code. It will take you to an action alert where you can easily plug in your name and address, and it will send a pre-populated letter asking for support from your member of Congress to support HR 1965. So HR 1965 is the book stipend adjustment bill. And what that will do is increase the post 9/11 GI Bill book stipend from the $1,000 it is currently, adjusting it to $1,400 and then codify for inflation. I know at NatCon we had some high upticks of involvement in that, so it's great to see that happening. As you take it, share it, make sure other student veterans and other students, let them know that the book stipend has not been adjusted since 2009, 2010, since the initial post 9/11 GI Bill. And definitely books have increased since then. So tell your community, get them to stand behind you in this issue so we can have our voice grow louder and louder in DC. Next one, Faisal, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Happy January, Happy New Year. Again, it was great seeing some of you all at NatCon. We're just going to get started with some updates from the Hill, starting on the House side. So in December, there were 3 hearings on the screen here. One out of the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee, another one out of the Technology Modernization Subcommittee, as well as the Health Oversight Subcommittee. On December 16th, detrimental delays reviewing payment failures in VA education programs. That was a hearing discussing some of the delays that our Chapter 35 and Chapter 31 members were experiencing in light of the lapse of appropriations during the month of October. SVA did submit a statement for the record there, highlighting some of the stories that were shared with us, but then also highlighting some of the ways that we can address that so that it won't happen again. Also on the screen here, it's linked to that statement for the record if you all would like to know more about what SVA has said. Going on to the next slide. On January 21st at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow, the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee of the House Veteran Affairs Committee will be hosting a legislative hearing across several pieces of legislation on the screen here. Hyperlinked. There are a couple discussion drafts also on the screen. The portal isn't working right now, but once that portal is open, I can provide you all the drafts. But on there, we will have HR 1982, the Warriors to Workforce Act. This was a bill that SVA has supported in the past during the 118th, introduced by Representative Van Orden. It was reintroduced this session, and we, again, would like to support it. We also will be submitting a statement for the record, most likely on as well. So be on the lookout for that. Going on the Senate side, on December 10th, 2025, last month, there was a hearing to consider pending legislation of the pieces of legislation on the screen here. In S2328, that was a piece of legislation that SVA has supported in the past, and we have submitted a statement for the record for that as well. So be on the lookout for next month once that's up, and we could share with you all for more information. Now, Moving over to the elevator pitch. So, in the last 2 months or so, we talked about, one pagers and the importance of that. Nope, we're good. And you're probably wondering, how is an elevator pitch different from one pager? Well, honestly, it's not that much different in terms of information covered. The major difference is that you're speaking instead of writing it. The format is relatively the same. You'll be giving yourself introduction, your name, your school, constituency to the member or whoever you're speaking to, how you're connected with them. That moment of connection is also very important. So if you live in their district or you attended their university that they're a member that they're representing you of, then talk about that. You'd want to highlight the issue or problem you're trying to solve and kind of providing a solution and then an action at the end. So with that, uh, just a couple shortcuts. Make a one pager, use as your skeleton, and be brief with it. And that one pager is designed to provide a clear overview of the concept of what you're talking about, and you can translate that directly into your elevator pitch. Now, a little exercise. So over the last couple of months, since October really, our webinars have been focusing on HR 1965, the Veteran Education Assistance Adjustment Act. Now, with that, what does the bill do? Tammy actually highlighted it earlier in the presentation. This bill seeks to adjust the books and supply stipend by the GL bill from $1,000 to $1,400, and then codify it for annual inflation. Now, this is a project that our VFW SVA members, legislative fellows, are doing this year. You may have seen them do it across NatCon. Does anyone in the chat in the classroom here feel comfortable in doing a little elevator pitch of advocating for these pieces of legislation? If so, feel free to unmute your mic and we could do like one or two people. And I'm a very generous grader, so it's okay. I don't bite. No one? Okay, fine, that's okay. We'll move on to the next slide. So again.
Oh, Kimmy raised her hand.
Oh, Kimmy.
Sure, I can go. Is it like 1 minute?
A minute max.
Okay. Are you gonna introduce yourself or should I?
Hi. Hi, Kimmy. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Faisal?
Good.
So I'm Kimmy. I am one of the fellows for the VFW SVA. I'd like to introduce the HR 1965, the Veterans Education Adjustment Act. Have you heard of it?
I heard of it, but I don't really know much about it. What is it?
Okay, so normally I have a pitch. Would you like a piece of gum?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so this gum back in 2009 cost about 35 cents. Today it costs $2.79. Basically, the cost, what is it? CPI, cost production index.
Consumer protection. Yes.
Yeah, that has increased, significantly increased over the years, and so has everything else. If you've noticed, the gum that you are just chewing right now has significantly increased as the books that the veterans are having to pay for. And so we are asking you to take action by scanning this QR code, which will basically be forwarded to the Congress and the people staff there. And we're asking them to adjust the cost of the books that we're having to purchase so that we can either eat ramen noodles and pay for our books or chew gum while we're taking the bus and making ends meet.
Thank you, Kimmy. That was a very
Okay.
expensive piece of gum.
Sorry. Thank you.
So a little brief skeleton here. Hi, my name is Faisal Solman, and we're gonna pretend that I'm a student. So hi, my name is Faisal Solman, and I'm a student at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Gotta think, right? Now, again, what's the issue? What's the problem that we're trying to solve here? So the post 9/11 GI Bill book stipend, book and supply stipend, has remained capped at $1,000, and it's been so since 2009. This no longer keeps pace with the rising cost of textbooks and inflation and other required course materials. Now, so how can this problem be resolved? Well, we could pass legislation that would adjust this book stipend and adjust it with inflation annually, so we don't have to keep coming back and asking for more money. How do you do that? Hi, member. We would like you to co-sponsor and pass HR 1965, the Veteran Education Assistance Adjustment Act. This would do exactly what we're asking, and you can do this in a quick minute, really brief and simple. And this is the skeleton of your little elevator pitch. So any VFW SVA fellows in the chat, feel free to use this as your skeleton as we're working towards Washington Week. And then as well as every other person in this chat, use this skeleton as a framework for any piece of legislation that you're willing to discuss and advocate for. And hopefully once we see you again in Washington Week in a couple of weeks, then you can use this and tailor it to other our SVA policy priorities. Very similar to what we did last year, where we provided you all some talking points. So, and if you're talking to a member of the Senate, well, this is a bill in the House. Well, we asked them, hi, member of the Senate, please introduce a Senate companion bill to HR 1965 to do the same thing. So you have to remember to tailor your elevator pitch to your audience, whoever you may be speaking to. Oh, yes, thank you, Tammy. Use your network. Use this use that QR code that Tammy put in the beginning. Share that amongst your members. I know if you're following our VFW SVA Legislative Fellows on LinkedIn, you most likely have seen them posting about the QR code, calling people to action. So do that, share that amongst your network, and let's get this piece of legislation passed. So, a couple tips for an effective elevator pitch: prepare, practice, polish, and perform. It was very hard finding alliteration for 4 Ps that would make sense. So yeah, that worked out there. Keep it short, 30 to 60 seconds. Eliminate any jargon that would cloud your message, taking up too much time. Make sure to tailor to your audience. Research them, research your member if possible. Because, for example, the member of Congress you're talking to may have already have co-sponsored this bill. And if you get to meet with them or their staff, you don't necessarily want to ask them to co-sponsor a bill they already co-sponsored. You want to thank them, right? So thank you for your support in co-sponsoring HR 1965. We would kindly ask if you're able to, talk with your colleagues to also co-sponsor this bill, because it is affecting all student veterans. So again, tailoring audience, researching is always important. Now, how can you leave a stronger impact? Leave behind a one-pager. A one-pager that you made, a one-pager that was in support of this piece of legislation. That QR code, share it again, just further emphasizing that message. And we're going to transition to our little fireside chat. That is the end of the how-to session. And today we have Julie Howell, the Associate Legislative Director out of Paralyzed Veterans of America. Julie?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I can say afternoons because it's 3 o'clock. So if someone's on from California, it's already the afternoon.
Would you mind introducing yourself? And outside of the bleak 20-second introduction that I gave you, and yeah.
Hey, everybody. My name is Julie. I'm an Army vet myself. Oh, there's a lot of shifting. Let's see. I served in the Army from August of 2000. I got off active duty in about 2003, joined the National Guard for about 18 months. I did a deployment overseas to Iraq when I was active duty as part of the initial assault. And then I did a second deployment with the New Mexico National Guard. We were attached to the Arkansas National Guard and then attached to the 1st Cav. I worked with the Patriot missile system. Didn't actually do that for a very long time. I got picked up to be a driver for a command sergeant major, backup driver for a 1-star general. I got in trouble, So I got fired from that job, and for reparations, well, no, for punishment for that, my command sergeant major sent me to the first active duty Army unit being sent to Kuwait to wait for the war to start. So I was in Kuwait in November of 2002, waiting for the big show to kick off. When I separated in 2005, like most veterans, particularly of that time, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grow up or when I grew up. I was 21, 22 years old. Uh, Life was pretty bleak, but I was having fun. I was living in New Mexico, drinking beer, riding dirt bikes, and shooting guns. But I was like, I should probably do something with my life instead of just this. So I decided to go to culinary school. I went to culinary school up in Portland, Oregon. From there, I got a job working in New Zealand. I have a very weird background, so I'll just tell you that now. I lived and worked in New Zealand for about 3.5 years. It mellowed me out a bit. I was a little ragey with PTSD. And I think New Zealand really it helped me out in a lot of ways. It's the second safest country in the world at the time. So I did that for a few years and then decided it was time to move home. I'm from California originally. I hadn't lived home for like a decade. So moved back to California, still working in corporate kitchens. I worked for Apple, Plantronics, Seagate, other tech companies. And then I got the opportunity to apply for a government contractor, and I started doing work cooking in Antarctica at McMurdo Station. So I did that for a couple seasons, and I've done 3 summers and a winter there, so that's cool. And then I decided, maybe I could try going back to school. I'd met some real chuckleheads working in Antarctica, and a lot of them had college degrees. And I was like, if these window lickers can go to college, I think I could probably do this. So I took a couple night classes and ended up going back to Antarctica for one more season, and then left in January of 13 when my application for community college got approved. I didn't know they kind of approve everybody if you're willing to pay, but that was my first ever education accomplishment. I got into my community college and I was jazzed about it. My first break, like my first summer break, when I realized that the post 9/11 GI Bill would not have any funding for me and I didn't want to starve, I ended up working in a kitchen in Alaska at a luxury sport fishing resort. That was pretty fun. But yeah, I finished up community college. I transferred, like I said, I'm from California, so they have a transfer admission guarantee. So I applied to a couple UCs, couple CSUs. Actually, that's not true. I haven't talked through my background in a long time. I did not use the tag. I just applied because, like most veterans, I had to take a remedial math course because I hadn't been in math in like 15 years. And then the advisor didn't tell me, you should probably do this one class instead of these 2 classes. And once I picked the 2 classes, there was no going back. So my first math class in community college, we were learning about pennies into dollars and decimal points. And I was like, I think I have made a grave mistake. But because of that, I didn't graduate on the traditional cycle. I had an extra semester of community college, which I'm sure most folks can relate to. So no transfer guarantee. I just had to do it on my own. I got into my dream school, Santa Clara University, but decided to go to UC Santa Cruz so that I didn't have to commute as far. Dollars are precious when gas costs that much. So I transferred to UC Santa Cruz. Go Banana Slugs, the best college mascot that has ever been invented. UC Santa Cruz also has the largest collection of Grateful Dead paraphernalia in the world, if anyone's interested. And when I was doing my undergrad, my senior year, I applied to do a school-sponsored 4-credit internship. And that is how I found out all about the wonderful world of veteran advocacy. I'd worked with a local nonprofit in Santa Cruz called Vets for Vets. And I was like, man, someone should really be doing this at the national level. Well, like most things that happen in DC, I just didn't know it was happening. So I took a quarter and lived in the dorms that are in northwest DC here. It was a miserable 9 weeks. If you ever get the opportunity to do an internship and you're from somewhere that's sunny, I do not recommend coming to Washington, D.C. from January to March. I've wintered in Antarctica, and DC is the first place that ever gave me seasonal affective disorder. Um, I fell in love with the work, and I was, you know, 5 years before, I didn't even know what grad school was. And then I found myself trying to figure out, do I want to go to grad school? And I'd studied history in undergrad because, in my opinion, and this still carries true, I believe that the GI Bill is a benefit that we earned and we can do whatever the hell we want with it. Um, no one gets to tell me to go study computers. So I showed them and studied history. And I was thinking about historic preservation at Tulane until I got my internship. And I was like, cool, public policy it is. So I ended up going to grad school. Um, my last year was spent during COVID. So that sucked. Um, but yeah, once I finished up school, UCSC offered me a job of being their veteran program coordinator. So for about 2 years, I helped student veterans on campus make sure they had their benefits, knew what the hell was going on with their classes, outstanding payments, stuff like that. And then a job opened up in DC at Paralyzed Veterans of America. And a friend of mine, who many of you probably know, especially if you went to NatCon, Maureen Elias, she was in my position before me. And I'd been trying to get out to DC to do some work, but it was COVID. Lots of people are jockeying for all the jobs, and no one's going to hire someone on the other side of the country to do a job when someone will do the job that's local. And so, by luck and sheer happenstance, um, I applied. I made it to the final round of interviews. And to show them that I was serious about it, I flew to Washington, D.C. in August of 2021 to interview in person. And like, I did not pack appropriately. For those that can't tell, I have tattoos all over the place. I had tattoos hanging out everywhere. I have plugs. I had a horrible haircut. It was a real bad look. Plus, it was super hot. I was sweaty. Miserable experience. But something caught their eye and they hired me. And I've been living a happy life at Paralyzed Veterans of America for the past 4 years. Um, I've had the absolute pleasure and honor of working with not only SVA over the years, but all the other organizations that probably attended NatCon, all the major ones that you guys are aware of. And yeah, so it's been a really weird journey. I think key takeaways that I'll share, and then I'll shut up because I'm sure Faisal's prep questions or something like that. But there's no such thing as a path. There is no such thing as a timeline. There's a fairy tale. Like there's a fairy tale that we tell ourselves that this is the timeline, this is how long it should take, this is what it should cost. And I'll tell you now that all of that is crap. Um, we find our path by determining what's important to us. And so I commend all of you that are enrolled in school and you're making it work. And it's hard, and I know that. But luckily, you've got hopefully your resources. You're obviously all affiliated with an SVA chapter. But yeah, so I'll stop there and let Faisal ask his questions.
Good. That was great. That was great, Julie. Thank you. I'll skip the how'd you get to PVA. So thank you. So I guess with all that, I know that you most recently have been involved with negotiated rulemaking process with Ed. That was something that I had the pleasure, and quotation marks, I guess, to some people, of doing it last year, and I discussed it with some of the members that attended this call. But would you be able to just chat about your experience with the negotiated neg reg process, we like to call it? I think it doesn't have to be long, just like a
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure like most people, the first time I heard negreg, I was like, I don't know if we're supposed to say that. I didn't really understand what it was. And all I know is that a bunch of people came back and shared with a working group. They were like, that was bleeping miserable. I was told you're never gonna realize that a comma or like a semicolon is so important as we hash through this language. And I'm like, what in the absolute heck is happening here? So I went in completely blind, even though people tried to prep me. Um, PBA, we do not focus exclusively on education. Education is one part of my portfolio. I'm not that important, but it's just a small thing for the work that we do, mostly based on the needs of our membership. We're predominantly focused on VA healthcare. Um, that said, I went in and that was a table full of lawyers, and I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Even Faisal got me beat with that JD. At least he knew what he was talking about. Um, I am I'm a vibes person. I'm not a regulatory text person that might be coming across. But it was really fascinating. And in the OB3 legislation, or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which is redundant, um, several education changes were made in that bill. And so what we negotiated was the implementation of workforce Pell grants, as well as a new accountability framework. um, there is an overwhelming amount of data, much of it compiled by SVA over the years, that show that not all programs are created equal. And we have quite the paper trail to show which ones are absolute trash. Um, and so trying to regulate that landscape with the key players who lobby for those programs, it was really wild, let me tell you. It was bananas. But it was honestly really, really fascinating. It's not very often that doing this work, we get the opportunity to dig into regulatory text in such a meaningful way. And if you think about Schoolhouse Rocks, right? Like, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. Well, once that bill becomes law, there's actually still a whole lot more work to do. And that's what the negotiated rulemaking filled in the gaps on. So a bill with its crazy difficult language. Oh my God, look at your cat. Um, a bill with its totally convoluted language and citations, you're like, what is this? Well, it's amending the regulatory text, right? And so you have to figure out, how do we write this in a way so that everyone will understand it, that it can be implemented across the board, and that it leaves very little wiggle room for lawsuits. um, and so it was really interesting to hear all of these people, whether they were representing really good interests or less good interests, but hearing the way all these brains talked about these things and how that regulation and that text would impact their constituencies, it was really fascinating. You can watch all of them online if you hate yourself and you're interested in regulatory text. You probably only need about 10 minutes of it because it's really dry stuff. But it was a really cool experience, and I'm really glad that I did it. It was a bit of a time suck, 2 full weeks. And when you ask professionals to take a week off in December and in January when they work adjacent to Capitol Hill, it's quite the lift. My boss was pissed, but it was good. It was a good experience. I hope Faisal, I hope you can say the same.
No, I agree. I think it's such a valuable experience, especially with the space that we're in. Because I mean, I would argue it's a fair statement to say that student veterans are often looked over. And when it comes to the educational provisions that are in like the bill, such as OB3 or whatever, it's something that's does tangentially affect students. So it's important for us and other VSOs to fill in that gap and provide that alternative perspective that may not be necessarily seen.
Hey, I'm gonna throw a quick caveat into that, because student veterans and military affiliated as a constituency group, they are always represented at that table. So
Yep.
I just want everyone, before anyone walks away from this conversation thinking the Department of Education doesn't give a crap about student veterans, that is not the case. It
We have a whole table.
depends on who's at the table, who's fighting the fight, and who is representing our community in a way that's going to be equitable and honest.
And I guess just to end the fireside chat, just keep it short. Keep it short in light of time. Ms. Julie Howell was the 2025 Distinguished VSO Partner Award, awarded by the American Legion back in December. We love you a lot, Julie.
Hey, real quick, I just want to
Yes?
make a flag. Kim, who had done her pitch with absolutely zero prep work, and you had that analogy about the piece of gum, and this is what it is. That was remarkable. Uh, when you can, that's a hook. When you get them to think, regardless of who it is, when you can make that type of connection, and you'll grease the skids on that. That takes time and practice. If you can hook them with something like that, you're in. Also, if you can make them cry, they're never going to forget you. If anyone has any questions, you can email me, juliehpva.org, or I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Facebook
and
for your
all that.
job, but I'm on it.
Thank you. Just really quick, would you be able to share, I guess, your view of the importance of just VSOs working together? I mean, the whole purpose of this fireside chat is to pretty much do that. And I mean, we had Patrick Campbell when he was over at VES, and we're looking forward to having other organizations. But yeah, would you be able to chat about that?
Absolutely. And for anyone that had the distinct pleasure of listening to Patrick Campbell talk, that man is a legend. He knows more about education than most of us are ever going to even be remotely aware of. So I'm glad you guys were able to do that. Also, sorry, the way you said your last thing, I thought we were wrapping up. So I just was like, oh. I think Tammy mentioned earlier, none of this happens like by a singular entity. A singular idea might derive a piece of legislation. In fact, that happens a lot when members of Congress think, oh, well, this must be widespread because it happened to one person in my district. Anyways, no piece of legislation passes, particularly related to veterans, without it being a group project. Since you're all in school, you know the love and the hate of a group project. Some people pull their weight and some people don't. Some people are better at this than others. But it takes all of these different personalities and all these different perspectives to be able to make the case. So ultimately, you're saying, what issue are we trying to address? What are we trying to solve for? Supposedly, this thing is going to solve for that. So let's work together. I manage 3 or 4 different working groups focused on different things, anywhere from IVF, economic opportunity, women veterans, VR&E. The collaboration between organizations makes the messaging more targeted, and it allows us to not only advocate directly for our members and we're all trying to center our members, but understand that rarely does a bill pass that doesn't impact veterans from multiple organizations. And when you think that you're like top dog, when you think that I'm the end all be all, that's a system point of failure. None of this gets done without all of us working together. And I think our ability to rely on one another for expertise is critical. I'm a firm believer in the fact that like the VSO community is a house of cards. When someone isn't pulling their weight, when someone decides to go off into left field, that house of cards becomes a lot more precarious. We can use the lane analogy, whatever. But we all tend to stay in our lanes so that we don't cross over. No one's getting their feelings hurt. But literally, we can't do any of this on our own. And I'm also a huge proponent. If you ever think that you're the smartest person in any room, you are fundamentally doing it wrong. Always attempt to be in spaces with people who you see as more knowledgeable, more intelligent on an issue. That's literally how I have survived in DC, is relying on experts from other organizations as I learn the ropes, as I understand an issue, because there's very few things in life that are more uncomfortable than being new and looking like a butthead. So to prevent looking like a butthead, ask the people that know what they're talking about, you know?
Thank you, Julie. Get this slide deck. Find it. There we go. Okay. Washington Week. Just to end the presentation shortly. Washington Week. I kindly ask that everyone pencils in the date, on the afternoon of March 1st to March 4th. Our website is currently under construction to reflect all this soon. But these are the tentative dates that we have so far. Registration, again, all that is on construction so far. So please follow our social media for up-to-date information. We plan on holding presentations and leading up, like the webinars like we did last year, very similar to our lunch and learns now. Of the 15, or technically less, because I'm also incompetent at 15. Does anyone have a preferred time as to the timing of the presentation of the webinars? Would the 3 o'clock time work for everyone?
Hi, this is Philomena.
Yep.
I know because we're across like the United States, I think holding it later Eastern time for some of the people in the Pacific time zone might be better.
Okay.
Appreciate that feedback. Last year we tried to hold them all at different times. It's like 1 week it was
I
early
like that.
in the afternoon.
Yeah, I like for me because of the type of school I'm in. I have studio classes. I can walk out and go back in the studio an hour, 2 hours later. It's fine, but not everybody is in art school and can do that. So I did like that last year that it was held at different times. It did make it easier for some of the people I know that are on the West Coast. But if doing it a little later than 3 o'clock, even Eastern time zone, would make it easier for them to get in because you have to remember some of them also have like late classes as well. And I know we're not going to be able to fit everybody's everything, but I think it would make it better.
Okay. No, thank you for that feedback. That's very appreciated. Aaron, raise your hand.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Yeah.
Is it the same day typically, like Tuesdays? Because like she was saying, I have classes. I just happen to not have class today.
Oh, Tuesday for the webinars.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're just exploring. We haven't finalized dates for them yet. As we're leading up to it, I'm just trying to gather feedback of what everyone would prefer, for scheduling purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll note that. Google career certificates. Also, can you guys see the slide? I shared it up. I wasn't sure if they're back up or not. Okay, great. Yeah. So, where did it go? Okay, great. Google career certificates. On the slide here is hyperlinked. So, if you're interested in getting a Google career certificate in various programs, you're more than welcome to click here, submit your contact info, get started. Within 48 hours or so, you'll be receiving email to create your account. It might go to your spam. Mine did go to my spam. So, once you create your account, you're able to start learning, complete as many courses or certification that you would like. This is open to your military connect network as seen on the screen here. And it's free. And Tammy, do you want to speak any more? I think I accidentally deleted a picture off of the slide before about this.
No, I quickly altered that. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Cassie had given me some additional information to help out. So I myself have not been in school since the late 2010s. So I took like the intro to AI class. It was like 2 hours long. And I look to continue on moving forward in maybe some program management classes they have there. I did add the Coursera courses through this are free as of right now, and will be so, I want to say, in the next 3 months. So you do need to get registered and make sure you check them out and get signed up and at least get them started. Many courses can be used as college credit, so check with your school, because if you can bump out a few classes for free, if you're at the point where you're at the end of your eligibility and paying out of pocket, that could definitely benefit you.
Thank you, Jamie. And just lastly, again, if you're any of you all here on this call, or if you have any members that know that are experiencing any issues regarding your educational benefit, like please reach out to us. The link is here. We'll reach out to our contact page, name, email. In this box, make sure you put advocacy, and it will get pretty much routed to Tammy and I's inbox, and we can assist you in any way. Regarding our next Lunch and Learn, stay tuned. Again, we're trying to navigate Washington Week and any other webinars we have with that. But here's our contact information on the screen here. And with the remaining 15 minutes or so we have left, we can try and answer any questions if anyone has any. And if not, we could dismiss class early. Again, for everyone that registered for this webinar, you'll be receiving a kickback of the recording for this presentation. And if you have any questions in the meantime, again, reach out. And we'll see you all shortly on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Faisal. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.